Thank you for tuning back in to the channel ART's Real Repairs for Real Customers. Those of us in the restoration industry have a very unique perspective on the durability of consumer goods. We see the consumer's reaction when the items that they have purchased fail, whether it's furniture or automotive interiors. And often the consumer doesn't even know what the material is made of. And as repair technicians, often we don't know either. It's become a very complex market nowadays. So what we want to do is just take a brief look at some basics of the manufacturing and the choices made there, and see how that's impacting the durability of the goods that are being purchased today. It's a real dilemma because it used to be furniture was handed down over generations. Now furniture may not be lasting 6 months. Why? And what can we do about it as repair technicians if we can do anything at all? That's the real dilemma. Let's take a look. In a typical production of vinyl fabric, we might see the raw materials, that is the PVC, mixed with the pigment in a hopper. And this is going to be extruded and mixed thoroughly. Once it's mixed, it will need to be distributed evenly over the surface of a long roller. Putting it through rollers a number of times will transform the raw materials into a sheet. This is a calendar process, and as one manufacturer states, the calendar rollers, which are usually configured in pairs, are used to gauge a web to a predetermined thickness by running the web through a controlled gap. Some rollers will have hot oil pumped through them to keep them at the desired temperature while we're getting a uniform thickness of our sheet. That sheet now contacts the fabric portion, and they're run through rollers under heat and pressure to bond the PVC to the fabric, hence the term vinyl fabric. Then it goes through some cooling rollers and off for storage. Then when orders come in, that roll can be reheated and run through embossing rollers for that specific order of textured vinyl. Now we can understand what we're looking at with this torn piece of vinyl fabric. Now when it comes to adhere polyurethane to fabric, it seems like there's an infinite variety of adhesives that can be used. And whether it's vinyl or polyurethane, both processes involve some dangerous chemicals. One of the characteristics we find in the field is that polyurethane tends to be a lighter weight fabric. And as we can see in this example, it's extremely thinner than the PVC or vinyl fabric. I spoke to one manufacturer who was using a hot melt adhesive sheet in between the finish layer and the fabric layer. This was 5 mil here. And here we have a 3 mil sheet. I've had it for about 10 years, and I'm assuming that because it wasn't fused into the product, that's why it's falling apart just in storage. Well, that's the Cliff Notes simplified overview of manufacturing. But let's talk about some of the manufacturer concerns as they relate to us. One, of course, would be material costs. We will see how that's impacting the final product. The other is energy savings. That's a concern. The hot melt adhesive sheet you saw was rated at a lower temperature, trying to save energy for the manufacturer. The manufacturer also feels more pressure now than ever to at least to have the appearance of caring for the environment. We'll put a question mark there. Ultimately, the product has to be suitable for the customer, hence marketability. And one of the reasons we're making this video is that it does not seem that durability is a prime concern for the manufacturer. More and more we hear about people talking about how consumer goods are just disposable goods anymore. And so what are those consumers' concerns? One concern we'd have to admit is price. Consumers want a low price. How is that driving down the quality? Of course, at the same time, the consumer wants quality. He wants durability. Of course, it's not reasonable to have low price and high quality at the same time, but maybe the consumer is looking for a balance, which we call value. What is the best quality we can get for a reasonable price? It is true that many consumers are concerned about the environment, but when it comes right down to it, does availability and price win out? Especially if it suits their needs at the moment. And the names of the products are so confusing. A customer doesn't know whether he's actually buying leather or not. Is it a substitute? What is it made of? Is it urethane? Is it vinyl? Is it leather? Doesn't he want a full disclosure? So all of these factors come together to shape the current consumer goods dilemma. We could ask, for example, did a lower heat cycle result in poor bonding for this vinyl? Did the energy savings mean that this part lasted only 3 years instead of 5 years? It's okay for the manufacturer because they get to sell you another one. The cheaper lines of vinyl are called contract vinyl, and even on the sample card, they're becoming brittle and turning up on the edges. The higher quality vinyls don't do this, but you might see this in your car. Now you know you're getting the cheaper product. And it doesn't seem to matter if it's a luxury car, still the cheaper product. And with all the advancement in material production, you wouldn't think you would see this kind of delamination today. But again, we have market forces driving the quality of consumer goods. We cannot talk about our polyurethane laminated fabrics without addressing hydrolysis. And as the name aptly signifies, this is the effect of moisture on breaking down the polyurethane, such as on this Kia Optima. One reference states that polyurethane-coated fabrics, because of their inherent polymer chemistry, can be vulnerable to humidity and heat, including body heat transfer while sitting. And as in this RV chair, you can tell that that's true because the problem is exacerbated where the arms and hands and the legs touch the fabric. And the delamination on this driver's seat on an RV is becoming systemic. If the seat was made of vinyl, our reference says that hydrolysis does not affect PVC-based fabrics. When a polyurethane-coated fabric fails due to hydrolysis, the film of the material can crack, flake off, or delaminate. And you've seen couches on the side of the road just like this. Now, you may have heard of some individuals peeling this totally off and then putting some coloring over top of the fabric again. And that's fine if you want to do that to your own furniture, but be assured that no self-respecting repair technician would waste their time doing such a thing. Also, hydrolysis failures do not typically occur in a single localized section of the furniture or only on one piece in a room. Failures tend to be widespread and can affect all seating in a location similarly. So now we can understand what is happening to these consumer goods. And while the market is trying to get you to believe that polyurethane is somehow better for the environment, all of these consumer goods are piling up in the landfills like never before. The RV community is certainly hit really hard with this dilemma of urethane. You can see where they've tried to stop the peeling on this seat. Well, the peeling just gets worse as I work on it. I'm going to do a little patch on this one. But there comes a point at which the more I do, the more damage I'm causing, and I have to stop. In fact, on the inside of the arm, I did a little cleaning and caused damage that wasn't there before. That's when you start getting frustrated. Before even the repair is finished, I have to stop. And the dilemma is, I've had to tell the customer, I've done what I could do, I can't do anymore, I have to leave it as is. And the one thing you want to be careful of, as a repair technician is once you start with a job like this that's going to continue to grow in severity, you could end up being married to the piece, and that's certainly something you don't want to happen. In the end, though, the customer was very pleased, actually. There was this spot right as soon as you entered that you saw that was damaged, and you can't see that anymore. And of course, looking down, you cannot really see the damage on the arm anymore either. So the customer bought himself maybe another 6 months or another year before having to replace everything. Here's a Class C motorhome with, of course, the same problem they all have unless you've special ordered something. Now in this one, I think we needed about 3 yards of material to replace all of this urethane, and the customer didn't want to spend that money. I think a lot of people are in the same boat. We see hydrolysis ravaging this Mercedes-Benz seat. We can repair it just fine using our vinyl repair methods, but we're not going to stem the tide of this systemic degradation of the entire finish. If you think our consumer goods dilemma was serious, you haven't seen anything yet. This customer thought he had bought leather, but now you can see exactly what's going on. This couch is 3 months old, and we're experiencing already failure of the urethane. I found what looked to be the same couch online for a similar price. And here are the specs. Okay, so there we have it, polyurethane. That is not, however, what the customer was led to believe. This is a review from another customer that purchased from the same company, and you can see that she's experiencing the same dilemma. So what did our customer buy? Okay, we have a 6-piece dark brown sectional. We have one left arm facing recliner. We have a corner for that, and we have one right arm facing power recliner as well. Next, we have written top grain leather match on sides and back. Now, it's typical with furniture that's leather to say leather seating portions and then leather match for the sides and back if the sides and back are made of another material, say vinyl or urethane, meaning they match the leather. To say leather match indicates that the seating portions are leather, but you would never designate the matching parts as top grain match. The word top grain leather is put in there to lead the customer to believe that the seating portions are top grain leather. That's the only way you would mention that term. So if it had leather, you would say seating portions top grain leather, sides and back are leather match. Now by saying top grain leather match sides and back, the customer is led to believe the seating portions have leather. That's wrong. That's just outright deception. And to prove the purposeful deception of that is the next line. Leather cleaner and conditioner. Why would you offer leather cleaner and conditioner if there was no leather on the couch? Again, listing the item is intended to deceive the customer into thinking he's got leather. And if the salesman even said that there was leather in the seating portions, it's not in writing. It's not in the contract. Is the contract legal? Yes. There's no crime here. But it could very well be argued that it's unethical, it's deceptive, it's immoral. Of course, a good number of people that have gone to business school will say, it's good business.
Well, whoop-de break it down!
Well, we'll let you decide there, but the best that we can do as repair technicians is apologize for the way things are and be determined to do the best that we can under the circumstances. And it is exactly those circumstances that are giving rise to a new piece of legislation in New York State. The introductory statement gives us an overview where it says, a proposed law under consideration in New York State would force automotive manufacturers to be more transparent when it comes to labeling the materials used in vehicle interiors, and could be a model for more widespread consumer protection. It goes on to state that the content of materials used for the interior is a mystery when it comes to cars in the U.S. Then it says, for too long, consumers have been misled by vague and deceiving terminology used to describe car interiors. Consumers don't know what they're paying for. It's not necessarily all leather when you pay an upcharge for a premium product. The automotive industry has lobbied its way out of labeling laws. The proposed law aims to ensure transparency and accurate labeling of the material used inside cars, prevent misleading marketing practices, and provide consumers with clear and understandable information about the content of automobile interiors. This includes leather and plastic content. And after listing some of the marketing names that we're familiar with, the middle paragraph here states, the proposed New York legislation would prohibit manufacturers from relying on marketing names such as the ones listed because they are not descriptive of the material content. The current market has underscored the need for labeling legislation due to the widespread use of the term vegan leather. Despite the fact that vegan leather does not truly exist, many consumers are unaware of this distinction. And you can always pause and read this for yourself. But I'll put a link also to this information for you to peruse at your convenience. And the article concludes with this statement, deceptive practices have eroded trust and created unfair advantages in the marketplace. This act levels the playing field, protecting consumers from unethical tactics and fostering a more honest and competitive automotive industry. Well, I hope you enjoyed that brief introduction to the subject, and I say introduction because, of course, we're not finished yet. So in the future, we'll have more to say on this in upcoming videos, and we'd especially like to pay attention to some practical suggestions for the repair technicians as they try to deal with this consumer goods dilemma. See you next time.